Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. Our special guest tonight is everybody's favorite ginger-bendered metal Granny, Granny for a Barrel. How you doing tonight, Granny?
I'm staying one step ahead of the shovel, Jason. How about you?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, man. We're just beginning the new year, and I want to congratulate you for being very first interview I've done of the new year. So it's always great to talk to you. Now, recently we celebrated the Christmas holiday. How was your Christmas?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I'm all about the holidays, depending on what mood I'm in. And because I was in a good mood, I enjoyed it.
Now let me ask you: did all your friends and family that you celebrate the holiday with did they get a special Christmas rockin' set from Granny for a Barrel?
Well, there might have been a few twisted Christmas carols sung.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point there. One of my all-time favorite metal bands, Twisted Sister. Years after the band had disbanded for a number of years before they got back together, they put out a great Christmas album, and that's now, believe it or not, their best-selling album. Now, my question to you, Granny, is I know you're you're just working on your debut EP, but have you ever given any thought to a Granny holiday album?
Oh, I mean, I'd totally be down with that, Jason. I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm a progressive granny, so I like to do cool things. And I think a Granny for a Barrel Christmas album would kick ass.
Yeah, well, that's something to think about. Now, let me ask you, Granny, because this is about the fourth time I've interviewed you. And the last time we talked, I believe the plan at the time was you were planning to have a full-length album come out, which to date has not come out. Now, let me ask you. I see that you're currently working on an EP. Did the full length ever get released, or is that something in the future?
Well, here's what happened. So we had all these tracks ready to go, right?
Yeah.
And then we connected with another team member along our last tour with CKY. His name is Bob Chiappardi.
Okay.
He's the owner of Concrete Marketing, Revolver Magazine, and he used to manage a couple of big bands. And Rob Zombie.
Where?
You look up Bob Chiappardi, you know who he is. Well, he came on out to one of our shows at the Culture Room when we played in Fort Lauderdale. And he'd been hearing about Granny, so he flew out and spent the evening with us. And he watched the set, and he was blown away.
I bet.
He joined up with our team and said, Granny, I know you got these songs. I know you've been working on this record, and you was going to put it out. But I want to make some suggestions. And we went through and hand-picked. Now, the tracks, we love all the songs. So We've been playing them in the set, and all the kids love them. We love them. But there's a couple gems that are in there. And before we even release a full length, we said, how about we pick out the gems that are going to go directly to radio and put us on the map?
Wow.
So that's what happened. And then he said, I know you've got this record, but one of my good friends, legendary rock producer David Bendeth, I need him to hear what Granny's all about because I got a feeling he's going to dig it.
Wow.
So we had a sit down with David Bendeth, and you know him, right? You know who he is?
Yeah, I believe he's the guy who's worked with Papa Roach and Breaking Benjamin.
Breaking Benjamin, Kill Switch Engage,
Wow.
Madison Man, Paramore.
Now, see, the thing about that is, those are some hardcore bands, whereas Granny's a little more like shock rock or, kind of hard rock, however you wanted to describe it. But so that's going to be kind of an interesting combination.
That's right. He's going to give. We're going to just bring all the best elements of Granny, and that's what a good producer does.
Of course.
If you go look at his Wikipedia, you can see all the bands he's worked with, and it ain't just metal bands.
Yeah.
So he's a famous guy who's got a lot of credits to his name, and so we sat down with David, showed him the tracks, and then he handpicked.
Wow.
He's like, this one right here is a hit. This one's a hit. I like this one, and I'm going to read. How about we do this? Let's just not do a full length. Let's get an EP out the door.
Yeah.
And then we can come back and revisit all the other tracks. So we're always right. In fact, I got the Butcher he's coming over tonight, and we're writing another track before we go in the studio next week.
Wow. Now let me ask you. When I talked to you last time, you were also discussing that you had recorded a. You didn't tell me about a track, but you did a Judas Priest cover. You guys still got that? You still plan on releasing that maybe in the future?
Oh yeah, I mean that was all. It's all done. And,
yeah.
We got that, and sometimes we play. In fact, we just did a show up in Syracuse where we was the headliner, and that's when we get to play our whole set. We did 75 minutes, and that Priest cover's always slipped in there.
Yeah, okay. Now let me ask you, Granny, because again, when I was reading your latest press release, I see in regards to the EP that you're working on, you plan on doing a cover of a Donna Summer song called "I Fell in Love." Now, again, if you look at the fact that you've covered a Priest song and now Donna, I love the fact that you didn't go for obvious choice, but I think that's why when people hear this, they're gonna, because Donna Summer's actually like more like a 70s disco act. So I love to hear like a granny metal version of that.
Yeah, well, that sure will, Jason. And that's the thing about Granny. We get to do. We don't have it. It's like we just do whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
If it sounds good and it fits, then we're gonna keep it. We played around with that because I always liked that song. I'm like, I wonder what would happen if Granny Four Barrel did a remake of a famous disco song from the 70s, and we started messing around with it. It was like, holy shit, this is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but a lot of people may be surprised to learn, like, the legendary Alice Cooper, he's actually, in his career, he's actually covered a Frank Sinatra song.
There you go, man. A good song is a good song. It don't matter what genre.
Yeah, and I bet this contact you made, was really impressed, because the thing is, Granny, like you're saying, you guys don't even have a full length out yet. You've been doing all this touring. You've been touring with some great national acts, and a lot of people have been talking about the band. And the thing is, like the two videos you put out so far, anybody seen those videos? They're very, they're like, I'd say it's visual delight. You know what I mean? It's just very appealing to the eyes. That's what, like when I hear your music and I see your videos, I have a trouble with people that say, rock is dead. It's just like
exactly, it ain't dead.
I mean, they got people like you, Granny. That the thing is, maybe not enough people have heard about you yet. But believe me, that will soon change. And like I said, anybody that's seen the videos or heard the music, they know what I'm talking about. I mean, you just got to give your audience a little something. Rock's not necessarily dead. It just depends where you go to find your music.
That's right, and it's always evolving, and that's what I like about this band and my boys so much. It's like we're just gonna, we're not gonna be locked into any one particular, sound.
Yeah.
It's just like Granny. We just do what we want, and we play for the people, and that's the best way to always check your songs, whether they're worthy. You play them out live, and you watch the audience, and if you're making a connection, and that song is making people move, you're getting the energy back, you got to keep her.
Yeah, and now let me ask you. I was reading the latest press release. In regards to the new EP you're working on, you got like one of those pledge music campaigns going. So tell the people out there a little bit about that and how they can get involved if they want to.
Yeah, all right. So what really pledge music is, and don't get this confused with GoFundMe stuff. It ain't the same.
Yeah.
Pledge music is your opportunity to connect with the artist and have the ability to be able to purchase some items that are exclusive, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stuff that you wouldn't normally sell on your website or even at your shows. And that's what pledge music is. And it's also a good way, to jumpstart a project like the one we're going in the studio with here next week with David Bendis. So you can basically pre-order, the record. You can pre-order it. And as soon as it's done and ready to go, you're going to get your copy.
Yeah, and the cool thing to me about it as a fan is, not only does it help the band fund their project, but if you're really into the band, because I've always been one of these people who believe in supporting your bands. In other words, a lot of people they don't buy music like we did back in the day. I mean, I'm still an old school guy. I love to have a physical CD in my hand. We've talked about that several times in the past, but so my whole thing is, okay, if you really love this band and this is a band you want to support, okay, what better way to help the band than give them a little donation, and then they're not just asking for your money. Okay, well, you help us out, and we'll give you a little extra. That's all.
Well, yeah, well, it's exactly because like if you go there right now, you're going to see the option to pre-order the EP.
Yeah.
So you're paying whatever that is from the, it's going to be the same price whether we were selling it on the road or whatever.
Yeah.
You're just going to pre-order it. That's all.
Yeah, and then
maybe we're going to put a signature on it,
Yeah.
or maybe we're going to do a couple different things that you wouldn't normally get on the road. So again, it's an exclusive opportunity to get something and engage with the band in a different way.
Yeah, and this is kind of I guess one of the bands best known for doing this was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago when Quiet Riot was putting together that movie. Frankie Banali, I think, I don't know if it was Pledge Music or GoFundMe, but they did a similar thing where people would send in money and they'd help the band, get the film made, and as a result, you get like autographed pictures and things that other people wouldn't get who just bought the movie when it came out. So a lot of bands are doing that now. But again, if you're really a fan of this band and you want to help them, and you get a chance to get a little exclusive souvenir, why not?
Exactly. But the thing is, too, Jason, just so you know, it's not like you're putting in money into a pot and then, we're going to take the money and you're not going to get anything, or we're going to give you a little souvenir. You're actually paying for what you get.
Well, that's what I mean. It's almost kind of like...
That's a difference,
And then,
because sometimes if you're going to make a donation, you're like, well, I'm going to help this artist out. I wonder what's happening with my money. Maybe I'm going to get a little something back. No. If you go on the pledge and you pay for a CD, you're going to get a CD.
Yeah, but I guess I'm talking to the point of like even I read something in the press release where people that help out or take part in the pledge music campaign, besides whatever goodie they might get for doing that, you might also have your name included on the album cover and this and that.
That's right.
So that that's a cool thing. I mean, think about that. Picking up somebody's album and say, hey, wow, my name's in there.
Exactly. Well, if you're a supporter, your name should be in there. And if you go to Pledge Music, for all the listeners out there, you go ahead and just start typing in one of your favorite bands. I bet they're already on Pledge. I'm talking about all the big ones too.
Yeah. That's a very good point because typically you'd think these would be like bands that are just starting out, but like you said, not to drop any names, but I know several well-established bands that are doing this. Just it's much easier way to a much quicker way to I guess get the funds going.
Exactly.
And
I think it's pretty cool, and that's another thing that my team suggested we ought to do, and I was like, you know what, let's do it.
Yeah, and now let me ask you, like you kind of made the point that this isn't a GoFundMe thing, and I could see the reason for you doing that because, again, not to drop any names or anything here, but I heard of a recent story in the news headlines that I'm sure a lot of people have, where somebody did go on GoFundMe, and it was just these people claiming that they helped some poor homeless person, and what a good deed they did. And it turns out they were actually kind of all involved in a scam to get people to give them.
I remember hearing about that in the news. Yeah, this ain't like that.
No, and that's the point I want to. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Send me all your fucking money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna head for the hills.
Yeah. I mean, and so
we ain't gonna do that.
No, that's the point I'm trying to make here. See, this is a case too where pledge music is a well-established thing that a lot of people in the music industry are using. People want to know anything about your band, they can go on Facebook or the web, and you're easy to look up. So that's easy to prove this is one of those scam things,
That's right.
Yeah.
Granny's legit, Jason.
Oh, of course. Now, Granny, as far as the act, I want to ask. You're talking about the act kind of evolving. Now, my question to you is, kind of how Marilyn Manson, he has a different look on, each album he releases. That is that kind of the thought process here with Granny. Like each time you guys go out, you have like different costumes and things like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like if you're wearing the same clothes, to the party every single time you go, that gets boring.
Yeah.
So we're gonna change it up. And remember, this is art. I mean, it's music, but it's art. So we're just gonna evolve. Whenever we got all kinds of things planned. Yeah. We're gonna keep it interesting all the time.
Yeah, because like I discussed with you before, like a lot of people, I'm a big fan of theatrical rock. Which is kind of what I would say you guys are about. And the thing is, if I wanted to just hear, a bunch of guys get up in their jeans and t-shirts and play the album note for note, I could go home and listen to, my CD collection. But I'd much rather go to see a show like what you guys are doing. You're not getting it note for note. You're going to get to see, oh, wow, these guys are not just in their jeans and t-shirts. Wow, they really give me the ultimate rock show here,
Yeah, wow, they got a fiddle player that plays Eruption on his fiddle, and then he plays Beethoven's Fifth, shit like that.
Yeah, and Granny, like I said, hopefully within the next year, when the EP gets released, more and more people are going to start hearing about you guys. And I think this could not come at a better time because, for example, one of my all-time favorite bands, Kiss, they're claiming they're going to finally go on their farewell tour finally. Now the thing with that is Kiss is a band that they've been rocking and doing for almost 50 years, but that kind of leaves an opening. I mean, for a band like Granny or whoever else wants to come along and kind of Kiss, who's been doing it for 50 years, they're not going to be doing it in a few years. So that's a perfect opportunity for you guys to come in and kind of, this is what we're about.
We're out there. We're on the scene. We're going to keep touring, and people are going to get to know us. And once we get this EP finished, and David gets his hands on this, and we're going to rework some tracks, and we got some new stuff we're going to record. I think, it's just a progression, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been a band for quite a while now, but we're going out. We're going to hook up with another tour. I don't have any names yet because it's early. It's a holiday, so the music industry kind of shuts down. But sometime in January, I should know, what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the thing is, I think it makes sense, like you said. Like, I'd love as much as anybody to have your full-length album in my hand right now, but I could see where it makes sense to, we've been working on this music for so long. Let's start with an EP. Let's give our fans, a little taste of what's to come, and then and then eventually drop the full length. Now, my question: what is the plan as far as the EP? I mean, do you have a targeted release date? Is it just a matter of when the producer thinks the tunes are up to snuff? What's the working plan as far as that go? Or are you going to wait first to see how much, money people donate to the fund?
Well, it doesn't matter because it's coming out either way, whether people give us money or not.
Okay, yeah, see?
We got enough. See, that's the difference again, back to the fund. We got our own resources to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
This isn't about, if we don't get the money. No, so we're just going to do it. And, people want to pre-order that, and they do that on Pledge. But sometime around May or June, because if you go to Pledge right now, look at it, and you order the CD, it says like 150 days left.
Wow.
That means that in 1/5, that's like what, 3 to 5 months, right?
Yeah.
So 5 months or less. Right?
Yeah, cool.
We're going to shop that EP around because we got a few labels.
Wow.
Not mentioning any names.
Yeah, I hear you.
We got some affiliations that know about this, and they're already supporting what we're doing. They're waiting to hear these tracks.
Yeah,
Let's see what happens. If it gets picked up, shit can change.
Yeah, and even the fact that you've got more than one label interested in you, that says a lot to me because again, the music industry is not like it once was back in the day when I was growing up. I mean, vinyl, interestingly enough, is making somewhat of a comeback, which I really can't believe. Now, I understand you. That's another thing you guys plan to do with the EP is to have to release like a limited amount on vinyl. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta have. I'm old school.
Yeah.
Jason, you gotta have yourself a record in your hand, a big old piece of vinyl.
Yeah, and an interesting thing about vinyl making a comeback is, I was watching something on TV about how vinyl is made, and apparently there's only like two places in the two factories or something like that in the United States where they're made, and a lot of people these days, they don't even have turntables anymore. And I was talking to one guy, and he was like, man, he's been like going on Amazon and buying vinyl from all his favorite bands, and he goes, man, I don't even have a turntable, man, but I'm just buying this stuff for for collector's value.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got one of them. I got an old school turntable, but I also got one of them new versions, which I don't know if you've seen them. They got cassette players built into them, and they got CD players, so it's like a little combo thing. It's got a lid on it. You lift it up. It's pretty cool. It looks like an old radio.
Yeah.
And those things are pretty cool. And I just got a Prince. I got a Prince LP. It was like a limited edition. I got a fucking Highway to Hell.
Wow.
Twisted Sister. They were all in some nice plastic cases. They were like, and I got Van Halen.
Wow.
The first Van Halen.
Wow, interesting enough. You mentioned cassettes too. I know one of the labels, Rat Pack Records. That's a great little independent label. They're starting to really release a lot of their stuff, not just on vinyl, but like on cassette too. And for people, there are many people out there don't even know what we're talking about. But anybody that does, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, bringing tapes and vinyls back.
Yeah, the only thing I never liked about cassettes,
the tapes get eaten.
It's just a pain in the ass to get to the next track.
Yeah. That's the one thing I love about.
Going backwards and forwards. Where is it?
That's the one thing I love about CD. You can just go to your tracks you want to listen to. Yeah, and I even seen some kind of contraption where you can play your vinyl and then you can like burn a CD of a vinyl. Yeah, so that's pretty cool things they're coming out with, and like I was saying, the music industry isn't like it used to be. The fact that you've got one label, let alone 2 or 3, that's even interested in you, that's got to be a great thing, because it's like, wow, we got more than one person, more than one label come to the table. It's interested in us, and you can kind of weigh your options and say, okay, well, who's got the best deal? Because again, talking like a band about like Quiet Riot, I interviewed Frankie Banali, and he was telling me, he says, okay, everybody thinks Quiet Riot's made all these money, but if you stop and think about, our 2 biggest hits were Slade songs, and so like we got all the notoriety, but Slade made all the money, and then on top of that, he was telling me, we signed like one of the worst record deals out there. So the fact that you have 2 or 3, and I'm sure you got people that help you, your management about figure out what's the best deal. So that's just great to hear. You guys got so much interest in the band right now.
Well, I sure do appreciate it. Yeah, it's like it's a validation that we're on the right track.
Yeah, because a lot of bands they only get offers like from indie labels, and but the fact that you got that much interest, I'm really pumped to hear that, and I have been. It's kind of interesting to hear you say that you guys got a contact with Revolver, because a lot of the outside of the internet, a lot of the PR I see for you guys has been in Revolver magazine, so that's a great thing, to have that connection.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Bob's he's a team member now, and we sure love working with him. And we're going to take this band to another level this year.
Yeah. And now let me ask you, Granny, when you go in the studio to begin recording the EP and that, any chance you guys might like, you ever think like down the line, like for a DVD or something, like any chance like you might record the recording sessions or anything?
Absolutely. I mean, we always got our phones out. We're going to take a bunch of pictures and some video, and because people want to see what's going on. How's this happen? What happens in Granny's world? How we do it.
Yeah.
So you can count on it.
And now let me ask you, Granny. I want to talk a little bit about the world today is very political, unfortunately, and in my opinion, you got a little too much of a PC police. For example, this being the Christmas season, I could not believe. I'm sure you heard about this. All over TV recently. People are trying to ban Rudolph or Red-Nosed Reindeer because supposedly encourages bullying. Growing up, I always thought the moral of the story was, this is to teach you not to bully anybody.
Yeah, right. You can look at it both ways.
Yeah. I
know. I'm with you.
It's kind of just like back in the day when I was growing up, and people like the PMRC wanted to stop people from buying records and try to ban all this music. It's always been my thing, hey, don't ruin it for other people. If you don't like it, you can turn the station, you can turn the channel. And I mean, even the most vile thing, I mean, I think almost, being the PC police and talking about it kind of brings more attention to it.
That's right.
And another interesting story about the PC police recently, I mean, I'm not much of a Dean Martin fan, but I could not believe when they were making this big deal about this old song, It's Cold Outside, and I was reading on the internet, kind of interestingly enough, which is a kind of a funny story about that, is since this big controversy, people trying to ban that song, Dean Martin's been dead all these years, that song is back on the charts, and it went to number 10.
No kidding.
I mean, that to me, that's like the biggest
I didn't know about that.
I mean, to me, that's like the biggest FU. And Dean Martin isn't he's not much of a controversial figure, but I heard kind of a controversy about it was people saying, "Oh, you listen to that song and it sounds like a man. That sounds like he's inappropriately coming on to a woman." Again, in my opinion, looking for stuff where it really isn't anything, to be found.
Well, I mean, what were they saying? They said,
this Me Too movement, they're just looking for anything to say. Oh, you listen to the song and it sounds like he's really inappropriately coming on to a woman. I mean,
I mean, why don't you listen to the Buck Cherry song?
Yeah. I mean,
is Josh Todd coming on inappropriately?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you should.
That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, and I ain't saying anything bad about the Me Too movement, but it's like, come on. I mean, I ain't actually listened to that song, but I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm talking about. Is like I said again, I'm not a Dean Martin fan. I'm the farthest thing from it, but the fact that they had all this controversy going, of course, and I went on YouTube, like you said, I wanted to hear the song. It's not that big a deal. I mean, it's just. It's like an old show tune, and it doesn't sound that bad to me. I just, I dig the fact that all these years later, that song could go to number 10 just because people were trying to get it banned,
There you go. Let's put a spotlight on it.
Yeah, to me, that's like the people speaking,
That's right.
Yeah.
You got it, Jason.
Yeah, so let me ask you, Granny, now, how's it been working with this producer? I know you haven't actually gone to the studio, but like you said, he's kind of a fan of your music, so... do you have any concerns that, like when you go to the studio, that he's going to try to kind of mold you guys into what he thinks you should be, or do you think he's going to go into...
No, 100%. He understands what we're doing, what we're trying to say, and he's just going to enhance that. That's all he's going to do. He ain't going to change our artistic interpretation, direction, any of that. He's only going to make what we're doing better.
Yeah. And now, let me ask you, Granny, another thing is I've always impressed me about you guys is I always love like the artwork, like for the singles and that. Are you the one that does the artwork, or do you have different people do it?
Oh no! Currently, we got this artist. His name is Elliot Matisse, and he's up here in Syracuse, New York. He does all the Dinosaur Barbecue. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No, I'll have to look that up.
All their art, and he's done a whole bunch of stuff. In fact, he even did a Ramones record cover. So
wow!
We got a great artist, and we've worked with a few over the years, but Elliot's our go-to. He's got an Instagram, Elliot Matisse. Go check him out.
Yeah. Okay, I will do that. Now let me ask you. Again, we were talking earlier about you've had the opportunity to tour, like for example, with Texas Hippie Coalition. Now, let me ask you, like, how diverse is your crowd from theirs, or would you say your fans are very similar to their fans?
Well, we did 2 tours last year. So we went out for 2 months with Texas Hippie, Cobra, and the Lotus. And then just before right into November, we did another tour with CKY and Necrogoblicon.
Wow.
All right. Here's the deal. The basic consensus is everybody loves Granny.
That's
all the rock and roll children. Granny. Granny's the surrogate, the badass surrogate metal Granny you always wished you had. And so it doesn't matter whether we're playing in front of a hardcore band or whether we're playing in front of a dirt metal band. Granny's just Granny.
That's cool to me because that's kind of the same kind of appeal a guy like Alice Cooper has. He can play in front of a pop audience. He can play in front of a bunch of metalheads. I dig acts like that. And the thing about Granny, I think, too, is, there are guys like me that are aware of who you are. You've been out there doing this a few years, so there's a lot, you do have a hardcore fan base of your own. But then on the flip side, think about somebody else, coming to a Texas Hippie Coalition show. They've never heard of Granny before. They've seen you guys for the very first time. I mean, that's got to be a mind-blowing experience. Like, wow, who are these guys?
It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. And again, not just we're not just talking about the music here. That's great ear candy, but we're talking about it's visually appealing to the eyes.
Well, I mean, I am here to entertain.
Yeah, and
that Granny exemplifies and perpetuates all the best elements of rock and roll.
Yeah, and let me ask you, Granny, in regards to the EP, any idea like how many songs may end up on the EP, or is that something that you're kind of figuring out as we speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be 5, possibly 6, right? That's typical on an EP.
Yeah, and again, when I heard you were covering the Donna Summer song, I thought, I love the fact you're not going for obvious choice. I mean, people might expect Granny to like do an Alice Cooper or even a Twisted Sister or a Kiss song or something like that. I love the fact that you're kind of not going for obvious choice now. Were you much of a? I was kind of interested, like, how did you decide to cover that song? I mean, were you much of a Donna Summer fan yourself? Did somebody else turn you on to this song?
Well, here's the thing about Granny. I'm a fan of good songs.
Yeah.
And I always liked that song. I wasn't particularly, like, I didn't own a whole bunch of, Donna Summer collection.
Yeah.
But I remember that song, and I was always like, I like that song. And then when we started talking about redoing something, we played around with a couple different ideas. And then it's like, when we started messing with it, it was like, this sounds pretty good. How about we play it live a couple times? And we did on the beginning of the last tour. And at the end of the tour, we played it. And the response in the audience was so good, we were like, all right, this is a keeper.
Yeah, wow. Because even like you're saying, I myself am more of a hard rock and metal guy, but I got appreciation for music if it's good. For example, I'm a Queen fan. I'm a Tom Petty fan. I mean, I'm a Bon Jovi fan. I listen to the Eagles. To me, if you take any of those artists, what gave those guys a career is they've got the songs. They can deliver the song, and I've always.
Hey man, that's right. I mean, Judas Priest, right?
Yeah.
Joan Baez, Diamonds and Rust.
I'll even go as far as the Bee Gees. I mean, people say the Bee Gees, but if you look at their catalog of music, I mean, you hear that stuff every day on the radio. So to me, I'm not one of these guys that just says, I'm only into hard rock and metal. Fuck everything else, I mean, if it's good music, it's good music,
I know. So, Disturbed, Sound of Silence, Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah. There you go. And
there you go. I mean, I could name them all day.
I mean, you even mentioned
Pretty Woman, Roy Orbison.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Van Halen.
I mean, and a lot of those guys, actually, if you go deep and read into the lyrics, I mean, some of what stuff they write about is really deep. Roy Orbison, for example, I mean, very prolific songwriter, but if you know anything about the man's life, he had a very, very sad life. I mean, he died very young to begin with. I read something where like he had a son that like burned to death or something, and he seemed and very, very tragic. But these guys, they live a life and they write about it.
I know. Yeah, he's one of my favorite singers too. And now we don't have the Johnny Cash biography. There's a little bit of, about Roy in there. They was close friends.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
His voice is something to behold.
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason. Like, you take a band like Queen. Who would have thought when Freddie Mercury died that Queen would have ever been to kind of able to go on to do anything, without him. I mean, Queen will never be what it was with Freddie Mercury. But the fact that they can take either Paul Rodgers or Adam Lambert out there and do those songs, that's just a testament to me that how great those songs really are, because it's not the original guys singing them, but the fact that they can still have their legacy and go out there and do those songs. And if you think about it, it's just the drummer, and the guitar player, and some session guys. But look at what they're doing. I mean, they're going to do a residency, I heard, in Las Vegas, and again, that's because look at those songs they have.
I know. You're right, Jason. I agree 100%.
Did you get a chance to see the Queen movie? I was curious.
I didn't. I missed it. I think I was on tour.
Wow.
When it came out, but I'm gonna, I'm just gonna get it on Netflix or something when it comes out.
Yeah, I know the DVD's coming out soon, but I just tell you, if you get a chance to check it out, because I know. I mean, I'm one of the biggest Queen fans. I'll tell you. The thing about it that's scary is if you look at the guys that play them in the movie, they look identical. I mean, the guy that plays Roger and Brian, I mean, they look identical. The guy who does Brian, the voice sounds identical. It's just amazing.
That's cool. Yeah, I can't wait to check it out.
So let me ask you, Granny. So I think it's great that, like you said, that people can, they can take part of the pledge music and be part of what you guys are doing. And I love the fact that the EP's coming out no matter if you raise $1 or you raise $1,000. And I think it's great too, because it's a way for you guys that even with you're making the EP, if you don't raise a lot of money for whatever you do raise, you can just put back into the show or back into the band.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Granny, as always, it's been great talking to you, but before we wrap it up, is there anything else you'd like to say to all the fans out there?
Well, I just want to say, I sure do appreciate everything, you guys coming out to the shows, supporting your wrinkly old granny and her shock rock psycho circus. And, I'm just wishing everybody a happy new year. You got yourselves another fresh start. In fact, every day is a fresh start. Mistakes are just a chance to learn and grow, that's all. And we're just going to keep evolving. I want everybody to, keep in mind, that I perpetuate all the best elements of rock, freedom of expression,
Yeah.
rebellion against authority, and, that's what I want for the rock and roll children. You keep the flame alive, and Granny's never going to turn her back on you, because I always got your back.
Yeah, and again, Granny, you just are getting started. I mean, you launched the band, just a couple of years ago, and look at how far you guys have already come. Just think where you guys will be, a few years from now. So, I commend you guys what you're doing. Keep up all the hard work, and anything that I could do to help promote the band or spread the love for the band, I'm more than willing to do so. Once the EP,
doing it right now, Jason, and we always appreciate it. Granny loves you.
And we really do love Granny because, like I told you, I don't believe all this stuff I hear about rock is dead. Because I mean, all the proof you need of that is to point to Granny. I mean, if there would be more bands doing what you guys are doing, that's great. But you got to start somewhere, and I think let's point the finger at Granny's way because you guys so far have just. Even without not even having any music like a physical CD or anything, people go out by. People are coming to the shows, and we just got to keep spreading the love for Granny. That's what we're going to do every chance we get. So, Granny, please do keep in touch with me, and when the EP gets ready to drop, we're going to help you promote the hell out of it, and we'll be more than glad to talk to you again. Okay, so thanks for kicking off.
We're going to see you out on the road, and we're going to see all of the rock and roll children.
That's right. Like Ronnie James Dio used to say, rock and roll children.
That's right.
Well, Granny, you rocked our world again. So again, once the EP's ready to drop, I'll get in touch with you and we'll do this again because it's always so much fun talking to you. So don't ever change because I love the fact that you really just talking to you, you're into your character and who you are, and that's what keeps it so real.
The person that once inhabited this body does not exist any longer. This is Granny.
So Granny has come back from the dead, I guess. So that's great to prove that rock is not dead. So thanks again, Granny Fabero. We will be in touch, and I'll be sure to let Chip know once the interview gets posted. Thanks so much for helping us kick off the new year.
All right, bless you, Jason.
Okay, take care.
Good night.
You too. Bye-bye.